9 programmers mocked this delivery girl, but what she revealed changed everything forever. Emily pushed her bike through the bustling streets of Chicago, sweat-soaked and weary, but her spirit remained unbroken. She navigated the thrumming symphony of honking horns and chattering crowds, darting into alleyways to dodge cars, delivering hot meals to hungry locals. Every drop-off was another reminder of why she endured. Her ailing mother waited at home, needing medical care that weighed heavy on their budget. Yet her dreams danced just out of reach like shadows that flickered against the glass towering around her. That glass building gleamed, housing the tech startup where young programmers huddled in hoodies, all the privilege in the world at their fingertips. Their laughter swept through the air like a slap to Emily's face. She could hear them scoffing at her, dismissing her hard work, their eyes judging her lack of formal education while she poured her life into delivering takeout and stocking groceries. It stung. Deep down, she promised herself that one day she'd rise above their scorn. One fateful afternoon, everything changed. When Emily glided up to the tech company with bags in hand, a sudden wave of chaos erupted inside. Panic rippled through the programmers like a storm. A critical software glitch threatened to ruin their major product launch. Their frustration was palpable, and Emily could practically feel the tension crackling in the air. Suddenly, amidst their turmoil, Emily took a breath. Shifting the bags in her hands, she approached the frenzied team. "Do you need help?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper among the chaos. The snickers faded into silence, replaced by shocked expressions. Who did this delivery girl think she was? But as Emily stepped forward, her intuition sparked a memory: years spent troubleshooting tech gear on her family's neglected farm. She remembered the late nights huddled with her father over flickering screens, solving problems with grit and perseverance. It was time to show them she was more than a delivery girl. With a deep breath, Emily shared her thoughts. "What if you tried rebooting the system?" The programmers hesitated, uncertainty etched on their faces. Then one of them, a tall guy with glasses, smirked. "Yeah, maybe we should ask the delivery girl for help next." But Emily wasn't backing down. The stakes were too high for her to care about their judgment. "I can help," she insisted, her voice unwavering. And as eyes finally turned to her, it was as if they were flicking a switch on the undeniable flame of her determination. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. Ideas began to flow. Emily's innovative solution surprised the team, breathing fresh life into their stagnation. Murmurs of intrigue wafted through the air. The disdain began to crack. Maybe this girl, with her unwavering resolve, knew something valuable after all. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Emily worked diligently alongside the programmers, a deeper conflict began to brew. Their old biases simmered just beneath the surface, threatening to boil over. Would they finally accept her not just as a delivery girl, but as someone with real talent to contribute? Or would her dream of lifting her family out of hardship slip through her grasp? With time running out and adrenaline coursing through her veins, Emily found herself straddling the thin line between acceptance and dismissal. The clock ticked relentlessly, and she stood on the precipice of change, a change that could alter her life forever or send her back to the shadows from which she emerged. The resolution was within her reach, but would she seize it before it slipped away? The atmosphere crackled with tension as Emily worked alongside the programmers, her heart racing with every keystroke. She focused on the screen in front of her, a user interface flashing errors at her like a frantic fire alarm. They were counting on her. She could feel their eyes flicker over to her every so often, a mix of doubt and curiosity threading through the air. What's next? One programmer, a woman with tousled hair and a determined glint in her eye, finally asked. Emily glanced up, sensing a shift in their perception. This wasn't the same group of mocking faces from before. They were starting to see her as part of the team. Her hands trembled slightly as she set her mind to work. Well, we could isolate the main processes and test them one by one. If we locate the critical failure, we can draft a workaround, Emily suggested, glancing at the screen with resolve. The group huddled closer, their skepticism gradually melting away. They leaned in, absorbing her words. Emily watched their faces shift from disbelief to intrigue, and her heart swelled with hope. Could they really be starting to believe in her, underneath the fluorescent lights, where ambition often dimmed beneath the weight of arrogance? A spark ignited. Ideas turned into conversations, conversations into collaboration. They were working together now, united by the mission. Lines of code flew across the screen, and with each modification, Emily felt her confidence grow, but as the time clicked down, the deadline looming ever closer, an air of panic resurfaced. "We're running out of time," shouted the tall guy with glasses, his voice laced with anxiety. "If we don't sort this out in the next 10 minutes, we're going to lose everything." Emily's heart pounded harder. It didn't just feel like a tech launch, it felt like the weight of her world was resting on her shoulders. And for the first time, it felt like she had a chance to change it all. "Let's try that reboot idea again," Emily suggested, recalling her earlier intuition. "It may sound simple, but sometimes, clearing everything out can give you a fresh perspective. It worked for us before. What do you think?" Heads nodded, eyes filled with hope as they quickly prepared to execute the plan. The tension remained, but for the first time, it was laced with something else: determination. A shared purpose rushed through them as they watched the screens flicker to life, praying for a miracle. As they hit the enter key, Emily's breath hung in the air. The seconds stretched into what felt like a lifetime. And then one by one the screens began to stabilize, and the errors fizzled out like fading echoes. Cheers erupted, stunning Emily for a moment. She stood frozen amidst the euphoria, eyes widening as the programmers surrounded her, clapping her on the back. "You did it! We did it!" they shouted in disbelief. The laughter and camaraderie she had wished for had found her, even in the unlikeliest of places. But as the tide of joy surged, a dark shadow loomed in the corner of her mind. Would this moment truly change their perception of her, or would she be remembered merely as a fleeting blip in their lives, a passing delivery girl who got lucky? As the excitement settled and her newly found peers discussed the next steps, Emily found herself lingering at the edge of the group. She could feel their energy coursing through the air like wildfire. In that moment, she knew she had stepped off the beaten path, but she still had to navigate the web of challenges ahead. Now, with a newfound voice and the spark of hope lit within her, would she risk everything to pursue the tech career she had once thought was only for the elite? Or would she revert to the comfort of her predictable life, a life far away from the glittering screens that now felt like a calling? With the world shifting beneath her feet, Emily took a deep breath. She was ready for whatever came next. Just as the cheers died down, a heavy silence settled over the group. Emily looked around, taking in the joyous faces of her new colleagues. They were smiling, but there was something deeper, a flicker of realization etched in their expressions. It was as if, in that moment, she had stepped into a new reality, a world where she no longer felt out of place. "We need to talk about the launch presentation tomorrow," someone murmured, pulling her back into the reality they had just battled to save. The energy shifted. Excitement gave way to pragmatism. Emily felt the knot in her stomach tighten. She had helped them bypass a colossal failure, yes, but was she really qualified to contribute further? "Yeah, we need to prepare quickly. This won't be easy," the determined programmer from before said, her voice steady yet urgent. Emily nodded, but inside, she felt that old familiar voice whispering her insecurities. What did she know about presenting to a room full of industry leaders? "Emily!" A voice called, snapping her from her spiral. It was the tall guy with glasses again. "You have insights that matter. Your perspective has already proven invaluable. We want you to be part of this." The pressure of those words weighed heavily on her. She had been just a delivery girl and nobody in a world of tech superstars. But the flickers of belief from her teammates ignited a small flame deep inside her. Would she let that flame be extinguished by fear? "Okay, I'll help," she finally said, still unsure but determined to push through the doubt. The team erupted into discussion once more, and Emily joined in, her voice growing firmer with each passing moment. They thrived on the shared spark of camaraderie she felt blossoming within their hasty plans. As they unpacked what the presentation would entail, Emily threw out ideas, simple suggestions, maybe, but they were genuine and rooted in a perspective that only she could provide. Some ideas were met with excitement, while others caused heads to shake. But each response felt like a step deeper into this newfound world. "Let us create a story," she proposed suddenly, surprising even herself. "Not just a presentation of statistics, but something that connects with people, makes them feel the journey we went through." "Yeah, I like that," the woman with the tousled hair said, nodding vigorously. The team began to rally around her idea, casting aside their previous doubts. Emily's heart soared. Hours passed, filled with brainstorming and laughter. They created slides that sparkled with energy, nearly pulsing with hard-fought success. Emily felt like she belonged in that chaotic room, where thoughts collided and ideas danced in the air. The pressure from her past life seemed to dissolve, replaced by the collaborative spirit swelling within the space, but as they fine-tuned their presentation, shadows crept back into Emily's thoughts. What if it all fell apart tomorrow? What if they succeeded, but she couldn't keep up with their brilliance? The height of her excitement was met with the depths of her fear, and the push and pull felt exhausting. "Are you okay?" A quiet voice broke through her swirling thoughts. It was the tall programmer, watching her with earnest concern. "Just nervous," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if I mess this up?" His eyes softened. "You won't. You're one of us now. Remember that. We're all in this together." The sincerity in his gaze began to pull her from the edge of her doubt. Could he be right? Just then, a notification pinged from Emily's phone, startling her. She glanced down to see a message from her old delivery service. They were asking about her return to work. Her heart sank. The comfort of that predictable life nudged at her, tempting her to retreat. With uncertainty swirling, Emily closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Would she walk back into the shadow of her past, or dare to step fully into her future? As the weight of her decision loomed, the clock ticked ever closer to the next day's presentation. Would she embrace this moment, or slip away into a life of security she knew all too well? The answer stood before her, just out of reach. Emily's heart raced as she stared at the illuminated screen of her phone, the message from the delivery service taunting her with familiarity. A part of her longed for the rhythm of her old job, the predictable days and concrete expectations. But another part, the part that had ignited during the brainstorming session, craved something far more thrilling, the unknown. "Hey, are you with us?" The tall programmer's voice snapped her back to the present. She looked up to find him waiting, brow furrowed in concern. "Yeah, I'm here," she replied, forcing a smile. "Just thinking." "You're doing great," he reassured her. "Really?" As the team resumed discussing finer details, Emily struggled to concentrate. Images of her days behind the delivery truck flashed in her mind, the early mornings, the endless streets, and the mundane conversations as she dropped off packages. Security felt good, but the spark she had felt with her new team was addictive. Then, she remembered the first time she was publicly acknowledged as more than just the delivery girl. It was a small moment in a coffee shop when the same people she had delivered meals to had actually looked her in the eye, recognizing her humanity. At that moment, she had vowed to herself, she would never be invisible again. "Okay, this is the plan," the programmer suggested, pulling her from her reverie. He outlined their final pitch. "We'll start with a strong hook, show them what motivated us beyond just numbers. How we overcame those hurdles. As he spoke, a realization began to take root inside Emily. What if she started the presentation? What if this was her chance to shed her past once and for all? The urge to raise her hand and voice her thoughts surged within her. "Can I start?" she blurted out, surprising herself and the group. "I mean, I could share what it felt like to be at ground zero of this project. The stakes for us were so personal." A murmur of approval rippled through the group. Eyes were bright with possibility, and that moment felt electric. She felt the embers of confidence stoke into flames. "Absolutely," the woman with the tousled hair encouraged, beaming at Emily. "Your story is what will connect with them, trust me." The weight of expectation hung thickly in the air, but it no longer felt burdensome. It felt empowering. Emily could feel her heartbeat echoing in her ears as she envisioned standing in front of industry giants, recounting their journey with raw honesty. But what if they don't relate? A shadow of doubt flickered again. Her confidence teetered. "Then we make them relate." The tall programmer's voice was unwavering. "Your story matters, Emily. It's real. And this momentum we have now, this is what it's all about." Glimmers of hope twinkled in her chest. Emily felt a surge of gratitude for this team, who had lifted her from the shadows. As night settled in, they huddled around the glowing screens, transforming slides into vibrant stories, templates into tangible excitement. But just as Emily's adrenaline peaked, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call. She glanced at the screen and found her mother's name staring back at her, the familiar sense of obligation washing over her. Her mother's voice rang in her ears, full of concern. "Honey, what are you doing with your life? What will you do if this doesn't work out?" Emily stood frozen, torn between the palpable thrill of her new path and the sobering reality of her past. The two worlds collided within her. With a deep breath and a heart full of hope, she silenced her mother's voice in her mind. As dawn drew near, Emily knew that the time had come to step fully into the light of her own story. Embracing her past was crucial, but this new chapter was everything she ever wanted. What awaited her in the presentation hall tomorrow? Would she step confidently onto that stage, or would fear hold her back yet again? The answer danced tantalizingly close, just as it had the night before. The morning sun peeked through the blinds, casting soft rays across Emily's table where her laptop waited, ready for the day ahead. The air was thick with anticipation, inflating her lungs with electric energy. She could feel the mixed emotions tingle beneath her skin: excitement for the presentation and unease about what lay ahead. After showering, Emily stood in front of her mirror, rehearsing the opening lines of her speech. Each word tasted strangely potent on her tongue, like a first sip of strong coffee. "This is my story," she whispered to her reflection, visualizing herself commanding the attention of the room. Yet, each time she attempted to project her voice, a knot twisted in her stomach, reminding her of the very real fear that threatened to sabotage her newfound resolve. She grabbed a quick breakfast, her usual distraction from anxiety. In the kitchen, memories of her time as a delivery driver danced in her mind, sipping cold coffee from a paper cup and munching on granola bars while sitting in the truck. She remembered talking to her customers, who, despite her best efforts, still saw her as just another delivery girl. Would that old self creep back into her today? As she gathered her things, her phone buzzed again. Another message, this time from her team. "Meeting in 20. You got this, Emily." A wave of warmth washed over her. Each text was a reminder that she was no longer alone, she was part of something bigger than herself. Once inside the office, the atmosphere buzzed with energy. Programmers rushed around with laptops and tablets, their faces lit up with a mixture of nerves and eagerness. She saw the tall programmer leaning against the wall, a reassuring smile gracing his lips. She could feel the weight of their supportive gazes, and suddenly, the room felt less intimidating and more like a community. As they settled into their seats, the air thickened with focus. The stage was set, a simple podium waiting for her presence. Emily could hear the murmur of the audience forming beyond the curtain, a sea of faces, crucial to her ambitions. When they beckoned her to the front, her heart thundered against her ribcage. She wiped her palms, her nerves screaming at her to retreat. But she remembered their faith in her, their belief that her past experience could shine through yesterday's shadows into today's brilliance. As she stepped into the spotlight, she took a deep breath, filling her lungs with the fresh promise of a new beginning. The audience quieted, eyes glued to her. She could see some glances of curiosity, perhaps even skepticism. This was the moment of truth. "Hello everyone," she began, her voice steady, surprising even herself. "I'm Emily, and I used to be the delivery girl." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, and she felt a tremor of fear again, but it quickly transformed into something fiercer. She launched into her story, weaving through the ups and downs of her journey, detailing the passion that her team inspired in her. With each word spoken, Emily felt the weight of doubt she had carried for so long begin to slip away. Just as the room captivated her energy, a hand shot up from the back. With the tight grip of uncertainty gripping her, she turned to face the audacious interrupter. "Do you really think sharing your past will resonate with us?" A voice called out, skepticism rippling through the room like a wave. The moment hung in the air, and Emily's heart raced. This was a pivotal moment, one she hadn't anticipated. Suddenly, the scattered fragments of her confidence began to falter. But it also ignited something inside her, a fire fueled by defiance. "Absolutely. Because I'm here to prove that everyone deserves to be seen. Underestimate me, and you underestimate the strength of resilience." What would happen next? Would the audience embrace her message, or was this going to be her moment of truth or failure? Emily's heart raced, the echo of her defiance hanging in the air like a charged storm cloud. Gasps rippled through the audience. She could feel their mixed emotions, a swirl of curiosity, disbelief, and perhaps even a hint of respect. The critic's eyebrow arched in skepticism, but she could see others leaning in, their interest piqued. Taking another deep breath, she willed herself to believe in her own words. "I've been where you are. I've seen people dismiss me, label me with their expectations. Just a delivery girl. But that girl had dreams. She had a voice. And it was time to reclaim that." A sudden surge of bravery washed over her as she began to share stories that punctuated her journey, the times she missing deliveries late at night, racing against the ticking clock, the countless conversations with customers who shared pieces of their own lives during those brief interactions. Each anecdote seemed to draw the audience closer, pulling them into her world. "Every day I felt invisible," she continued, "but each interaction was a reminder that every person has a story. Every struggle is a stepping stone. And today, I stand in front of you to challenge all of us to look beyond what we see at first glance." The atmosphere shifted subtly. Heads nodded, smiles flickered, and she felt them respond to the truth in her voice. Emily's confidence blossomed, unfurling like a flower reaching for the sun. The words came faster now, ignited by a raw energy thrumming through her veins. "And this is why it matters," she emphasized, her heart racing faster with each beat. "It's not just about sharing my past, it's about helping you all see the brilliance in yours. We all have our own paths, filled with obstacles and triumphs. It's time we acknowledge that and lift each other up." As she spoke, she caught sight of the tall programmer who had offered her encouragement earlier. He smiled brightly, clearly moved. Emily's eyes glistened with unshed tears, fueled not just by the emotion of the moment but by the possibility of connection, the realization that sharing her story might actually resonate. Then, another hand shot up. "What if they never see the real you? What if they never change?" The voice challenged. This time, it was softer, tinged with vulnerability. Emily's heart softened, recognizing the fear behind the question. "That's the beautiful part," she replied, her voice steady. "It doesn't matter if they do or don't. What matters is that we believe in ourselves. Change begins within us. We can't control others' perceptions, but we can forge ahead regardless." The silence that felt different now, charged with possibility and empowerment. She saw heads nodding, eyes widening in understanding. Emily's words bounced back to her, affirming her own resolve, weaving an invisible thread of shared experience among them. As she concluded, the crowd erupted in applause, a cacophony of affirmation that echoed around the room. The initial skepticism had transformed into support, and Emily's heart thudded wildly with joy. Yet amidst the clapping, she noticed the same skeptic from earlier, still sitting in the back, arms crossed. His expression remained indecipherable. There was still a part of him not convinced. As her heart swelled with triumph, she couldn't help but wonder what it would take to bridge that gap between them. Could she sway even the fiercest skeptic? The audience began to rise, celebrating not just her, but the spirit of unity and empowerment. But as the noise filled the room, a knot of anxiety twisted in her stomach again. For a different reason. There was still more to reveal, and she was just getting started. What remained hidden beneath the surface? What revelations awaited her as they delved deeper into the power of vulnerability? Emily stood at the podium, her heart still racing from the applause. She felt lighter, almost floating. But beneath that buoyancy was a tremor of apprehension. She had defied expectations, yet the lingering gaze of the skeptic in the back weighed heavily on her mind. What if her words weren't enough? The applause folded into a softer murmur as the audience talked among themselves. Excitement buzzed in the air, but Emily's focus sharpened on the tall programmer who urged her on earlier. He approached her, his smile wide and genuine. "Wow, Emily," he began, his voice warm, "you were incredible. I've never felt so inspired listening to someone share their truth." She managed a smile in return, feeling the swelling warmth of his compliment. "Thank you. I didn't know I had it in me." "You had everything in you," he said, shifting slightly on his feet. "But what's next? What more do you want to share?" The question hung between them, and Emily hesitated. She thought about the deeper parts of her story. The moments that stung, the fears that threatened to pull her back down into the shadows of obscurity. As if reading her mind, he added, "I think there's still more. You mentioned struggling, feeling invisible. I think people need to hear that too." His words struck a chord, and she felt a spark igniting. "You're right," she said slowly, warming to the idea. "I think my story isn't just about triumph. It's also about the messiness, the moments when I wanted to give up." His eyes lit with encouragement, and she felt a weight lift. It was a reminder that vulnerability wasn't a weakness, but a strength. She glanced back at the audience, who were now floating between conversations, still buzzing with the adrenaline of her performance. It was now or never. I can go deeper. I can show them the fear, the moments where I felt like just a delivery girl with dreams that seemed frankly laughable. Her hands trembled a bit. What if they didn't understand? But as she looked at her newfound friend, something inside her pushed back the doubts. "I'll share the tough stuff," she said, voice steadier. "The part where I almost let those dismissals swallow me." The programmer nodded in agreement. "That's honesty. That's what they connect with." Taking a deep breath, Emily stepped back to the podium, heart pounding again. "I know many of you are feeling inspired tonight. But I also know that life can be crushing. I spent hours as a kid dreaming of doing great things, but every time I faced ridicule, I retreated. I think many of us have felt that sting, the mockery that tries to silence our voices." A murmur of recognition rolled through the crowd. She could see their expressions shifting, faces softening, heads nodding again. "Let me ask you this," she continued, drawing them in. "What's the one thing you've hidden because you feared being judged? What are the dreams you quietly shelved away?" A hush fell over the room, and she realized her voice was resonating. The skepticism from the back seemed minute now, overshadowed by the plethora of faces eager to connect, to share their own stories. Emily felt a ripple of hope tighten around her. "I want to help you speak your truth," she said, passion lacing each word. It's not just about me. It's about all of us finding the courage to rise together, even when it feels impossible. Just as it seemed she had captured their collective heart, arms crossed in the back uncrossed. The skeptic stood. She met his fierce gaze with her own, a challenge, a plea. And if you still disagree? His voice broke slightly as he responded, if you're brave enough to share it all, I'll be here to listen. The affirmation sent a jolt through her, electrifying the room further. What had started as whispers became applause once again, yet this time it felt charged with a new purpose. Emily took a step back, knowing there was still much to unfold. As the audience settled into an intimate focus, she wrapped her fingers around the edge of the podium. What other hidden truths lay ahead? What stories would emerge as she peeled back the layers of her life further? The journey was only just beginning. The new energy in the room was palpable, almost electric. Emily felt it radiate through her, empowering her with a sense of purpose that she hadn't experienced before. As she stood there, gripping the podium, she realized this wasn't just about her voice, it was about connecting to the hearts of others who felt lost, like she once had. The crowd leaned in, their faces eager and attentive. Emily took a deep breath, diving deeper into her past. I remember what it felt like to be dismissed, she began, her voice steady. I was just a girl delivering sandwiches, dreaming of something beyond the horizon. I had visions of grandeur, but all I could see were the narrow-minded judgments from others. It made me question everything. Who did I think I was? A few nods echoed from the audience, and she felt the collective empathy wrap around her. Every no felt like a weight I carried. It was exhausting, but the worst part was feeling invisible, even when I was standing right in front of people. The silence deepened, allowing her words to hang thick in the air. She spotted a woman wiping away a tear. It struck something in Emily's heart. This wasn't just her story anymore, it resonated with everyone in that room. There were nights I'd lay awake, thinking, wishing to be more than just that girl who delivers. I wanted to be seen. It's a lonely feeling, she said softly, vulnerability spilling from her. Like you walk into a crowded room, and no one even glances your way. All you want is to scream, hey, I exist. I'm worth something. The programmer shifted, leaning closer, his expression encouraging. Emily realized how powerful her honesty was, more than any polished talk could ever convey. But what I learned, she continued, is that even when others don't see you, you have to look within. You have to believe in your dreams so fiercely that no one else's doubts can shake you. Another ripple of recognition washed across the crowd. It was as if she had invited each of them to discard their masks, allowing their own silent struggles to float to the surface. What's your dream? She asked, her voice soft and direct. I want you to hold it in your heart as we continue. Even if you've been laughed at or told to stop dreaming, this moment is yours. Let the world see you. The room felt charged with emotion, and she could see the flicker of liberated spirits igniting in the faces around her. A man in front raised his hand, speaking before she could process the shift. I wanted to be a musician, but my parents thought it was impractical. Yes. See? Emily encouraged, her excitement bubbling over. You're not alone. In this room, you can share that dream without fear. Another voice chimed in. I always wanted to travel the world and document it, but I was told to be realistic. Emily smiled, heart racing. Can we all agree to be a little unrealistic tonight? Let us celebrate those dreams, every one of them. The energy surged as people began to speak up, slowly at first, and then with more conviction. Each voice brought stories flickering to life within the room, revealing hidden dreams and fears. Emily felt tears gather in her own eyes, a mix of joy and sadness for every whispered hope that had been squashed. What if we create a community here? A place where we can uplift one another? As she spoke, the skeptic from earlier moved forward, eyes glimmering. Guess there were some truths I didn't see before. You've opened my eyes. Emily's heart swelled. What if we could challenge each other to face those dreams head-on, acknowledge the fear, and become our own allies? The momentum built further, igniting souls who had felt muted for too long. The applause that erupted felt different this time, a wave of raw, collective liberation. Feeling a firm grip on her narrative, Emily stood before them, recognizing this moment could be a spark for change not just for herself, but for everyone in the community. In that heartbeat of connection, she asked, "Can we promise to chase those dreams together? Can we support each other unconditionally?" The room erupted in agreement. But deep down, a question nagged at her. They were igniting the passion for their dreams, but could her own fears ever truly fade? And suddenly, another thought struck: what if reckoning with those fears was just beginning? A hush descended again, brimming with anticipation. What would this next part of their journey reveal? What fissures were left unexamined? Her heart raced at the prospect. The silence stretched, thickened with unspoken words and shared fears. Emily sensed the sheer weight of their dreams hanging in the air, begging to be articulated. She had sparked something fierce within them, and now she had a responsibility to keep that fire alive. "Let us take that leap together," she urged, her voice finding new strength. "What if we organized workshops? Support groups? A safe haven where we can share our journeys, stumbling and all?" The crowd erupted once more, this time with cheers and clapping, some even standing in solidarity with her vision. Emily felt lifted, her heart soaring as she envisioned the community, a place where every voice mattered, where no dream was too big or too foolish. Suddenly, an older gentleman stood up, his demeanor serious. "I appreciate what you're doing, but we live in reality. We can't disregard what the world expects from us. Dreams are great, but what if we fail?" His question hovered, heavy and unsettling. The energy in the room shifted slightly. Emily swallowed hard. What if they did fail? That was the core of her fears too. She could almost feel her legs buckle under the weight of doubt swirling just beneath the surface. Taking a step forward, Emily locked eyes with him. "I get that. Trust me, I do. I've been there. But failing isn't the end. It's part of the journey. Every dreamer faces it. Isn't it better to chase something noble and possibly fail than to never try?" The man's gaze softened slightly, but uncertainty still flickered in his eyes. Emily felt the urgency rise in her chest. She wanted everyone to abandon their fears, yet here she was, grappling with her own. A voice from the back chimed in, "What if we fail together? That's still progress." The crowd buzzed with agreement. It was a beautiful realization, shared vulnerability. They didn't have to face their fears alone. "Yes!" Emily shouted, her spirit soaring once again. "Fails can be stepping stones. We can twist the narrative. Every setback can lead to learning and growth. Look at all of us, standing together. Are we not strong enough to lift each other?" Small ripples of encouragement sparked within the crowd. People began to nod, some laughing nervously. Emily smiled, feeling a mixture of relief and excitement. As discussion ebbed and flowed, she began to sense something deeper, something she had yet to address: the fear of not feeling enough, the fear that still gripped her heart. Would they all still feel courageous tomorrow? She paused, letting her mind wander. If she was going to inspire, she had to dig even deeper. "Before we continue, I need to share something else," she said, hesitating. "What truly terrifies me is not failing but running out of time to make something of my dreams." Silence fell again, as everyone absorbed her words. Their expressions shifted to recognition and a shared understanding. Life passed quickly, and dreams often felt like mirages that danced just beyond reach. One brave woman spoke up, her voice trembling. "I've been afraid to admit it. There are days it feels too late, like I should give up." "I know that feeling," Emily replied, her heart racing. "Somehow it makes the dreams feel heavier. But every day is a new beginning. What if we decide to make every moment count? The crowd murmured, hiding their doubts among hopeful glances. The unexpected connection in the room became their strength. They began exchanging stories, fears pouring out as seemingly insurmountable walls crumbled one by one. With every shared laugh, every soft sigh, life unfolded anew. Among them, Emily's heart ached. Her own question remained tight in her chest. How could she catalyze miracles when her own vulnerabilities loomed large? She needed clarity, guidance, something beyond herself. As the discussions grew richer and questions began to swirl about how to practically start their journey, Emily felt an urgent pull toward the next steps. Could they really transform their lives? "Let us take the first step right now," she exclaimed, her voice rising above the subtle chaos. "I want us all to write down our dreams and fears each one. Let's create a wall of inspiration together. And when we leave tonight, we take one action, no matter how small, to move toward those dreams." People rustled with excitement, reconnecting with their purpose. But behind the cheers, uncertainty gnawed at Emily. Would all this energy remain when the lights dimmed and everyone stepped back into the harshness of reality? What would each of them do when they faced the silence after the applause? As the crowd began gathering their ideas, Emily took a breath, eyes wide. This wasn't just about motivation, it was about creating a legacy together. But could they really sustain this momentum? The answer shimmered just out of reach, hanging like the buzz of electricity still in the air, waiting for exploration. Her heart raced with possibility, but doubt flickered at the edges. Where would they go from here? What awaited them on this path they had agreed to take together? As the crowd buzzed with excitement, strands of laughter and camaraderie filled the air, Emily felt something monumental shift inside. It wasn't just her journey anymore, it was a community she was beginning to build, a space where dreams could unfurl, where vulnerability and resilience intertwined. "Let us write those dreams down," she encouraged, her voice threading through the growing energy in the room. She could feel the collective heartbeat, steady and strong. Faces around her brightened, eyes gleaming with hope, tables filled with hastily scribbled notes and shared laughter as people penned their dreams and fears. Emily moved among them, offering words of encouragement, her spirit soaring. The gathering was morphing into something powerful. Their voices rang with vulnerability, as one man admitted he had dreamed of starting an art gallery but had let the vision slip away. Another shared his desire to write a novel, a dream buried under years of practicality. She stood back for a moment, watching the room glow with possibilities. This was at the moment she had yearned for her entire life, the palpable feeling of belonging, of being valued not just for what she could do, but for who she was. As they created a wall of dreams, Emily noticed her old fears creeping back. What if this was all a fleeting moment? The doubts tugged at her heart. The former delivery girl, the girl who felt unseen, resurfaced in a flicker of self-doubt. But as she glanced around, seeing hope blossoming in the faces surrounding her, she knew this wasn't just a passing phase. They were creating a legacy right here. Their energy hitched to a new level as a few people began to voice their intentions for the actions they'd take, and soon many were sharing theirs too. Emily's heart surged. This was about more than individual aspirations, it was about accountability. They were collectively igniting a movement. "Let us keep the momentum," she urged, speaking to the crowd again, passion coursing through her. "We'll follow up. A week from today, let us meet back here. Share what you've accomplished, how you've faced your fears. Let us celebrate the little wins together." Cheers erupted, igniting a spark of excitement throughout the crowd. Emily watched as the man who once doubted her stepped forward. "I'll open my gallery," he declared boldly, determination lighting his face. The room fell silent in awe, then erupted in applause. "I'll start writing pages for my novel," another voice chimed in, claiming their dream as the audience roared back with acclaim. Encouragement swept over her like a warm wave. As laughter and enthusiasm poured over one another, Emily felt her old self begin to recede. Every shared story added to the foundation, constructing something beautiful. Their fears spilled over, but they were met with understanding instead of ridicule. In this moment, together, they were rising above, when the evening drew to a close, and the glow of promise settled among them like a comforting blanket. Emily stood before the wall plastered with dreams and aspirations. She fought against the swell of tears blurring her vision. "Thank you," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "Thank you for believing in yourselves and in each other. This is just the beginning." As people began to file out, she remained, running her fingers over the dreams inscribed on paper. She could feel the echoes of their aspirations, as if each note pulsated with the hope for tomorrow. With every stroke of her fingers, she came to a realization: they were not stuck, they were capable of transformation. As she looked up to see the tall programmer lingering at the door, he caught her gaze, flashing that reassuring smile. "You've helped us all," he murmured as he walked closer. "You ignited a fire within us that many of us didn't know we were missing." Emily felt a radiant joy breaking through her insecurities. "It's not just me," she replied, her heart swelling. "We're all doing it together." After locking the door behind her, she felt an exhilarating sense of freedom wash over her. The distant shadows of her past faded, and she recognized it wasn't just the audience in her corner, it was also herself. As she stepped outside into the crisp Chicago night, the city lights sparkled under the canopy of stars, mirroring her own hopes that glittered with possibility. Life was uncertain, challenges lay ahead, but she could finally see a path. She could not only dream but also dare to chase those dreams fiercely. Now it was her turn to embrace this journey, a journey where she was no longer just a delivery girl but a beacon of hope and inspiration for many. The tables had turned, and the moment had arrived for her to profoundly transform her life and those around her. This chapter must not be the end, but rather a beginning of new horizons. As the night deepened, Emily clutched her dreams tightly, knowing this was not just a story, it was a new reality unfolding. There was no going back now, don't wait. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories, because you need to see how these journeys unfold. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, each like counts, more than you know. Comment below with your own dreams and reactions to this ending. Share your story, let's lift each other, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. It's time for the world to hear these stories. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.